Hi everyone, today we're going to be reviewing my 2019 150 SX. Now I've had this bike for 566 hours, I bought it brand new, and it has been a phenomenal machine. But it's not a bike for everybody, so today we're going to talk about what's failed, what hasn't, where it's been, what it's done, and what I think it's capable of. So at the end of this video, you should be able to decide if this is a machine that you're interested in owning or if it really isn't a good fit. So let's dive in and see what this thing's all about. Let's talk about things that have broke on this motorcycle. Other than ramming inanimate objects or people or throwing my bike off the side of a cliff, very few things have failed. You have your normal stuff, wheel bearings go bad, you have to replace your pistons every so often, do bottom ends on the regular, clutches, all that stuff, that I don't really count that. They have all had extremely long service lives. I do about 50-hour piston changes, I service the suspension every 30 hours. The bottom end I did once at 333 hours, and oil every 20 for the bottom end, and it's been very, very reliable. The only failure I've had that was really out of the ordinary was the Kickstarter idler bushing. That went bad somewhere around 500 hours. I lost the kicker. I found that the idler gear had fallen off of the boss. The bushing was wore out. The boss was a little worn. And it was a pretty simple repair with a tap and a 832 bolt. Just put it all back together and it was fine. At least I think it was 832, might have been 6, I can't remember. You can Google that if you want to know more about the repair. Lots of people talk about that. It's pretty straightforward and you don't have to split the cases or anything silly like that. But yeah, that's it. I've never had an issue with the air forks. I've never had any sort of other motor issue. Nothing I can really say about this machine other than it's been extremely reliable for me for the whole time that I've owned it. So let's talk about the things that I really like about this motorcycle, and I'll give you two. First off is the air forks. I heard all the horror stories people said about how bad they were going to be. Those are all lies. I really like the air forks. They're still on this bike. I did revalve them maybe 200 hours in. That is not necessary. There is enough clicker travel and you can tune this enough that unless you are really going out of the comfort zone of most people, you won't have to mess with this suspension much at all. Being able to change the spring rate by just pumping it up is a great thing for most people. You don't have to spend money on different spring rates. You don't have to be able to tear your fork apart. I'm a big fan of the air forks. My new bike has spring forks. They're really good. They're better than this as far as feel, but they're not adjustable in the way that this fork is. So I like the air forks. I think that's a win for this bike. The other thing that I really like, and this is just a KTM specific thing, guys, I don't know what magic sauce KTM puts into these clutches, and I know the clutch is on the other side, but the clutches in these bikes, they just don't quit. They just don't die. No matter how hard I try, I can't kill one of these clutches. I did change this thing at about 250 hours, and it looked great, and I said the next one I'm going to run till it dies. Well, it's still in there, and it hasn't died yet, and I'm selling the bike tomorrow, so I'll have to keep up with the guy and see when he ends up putting a clutch in it. But yeah, these things are damn near indestructible. If you're killing KTM clutches, let me know what you're doing so that I can figure out that I just must suck that bad at riding that I don't run the clutch that hard. But yeah, those are the two big things that stick out to me when we're talking about these motorcycles. Let's talk about the things I don't like about this motorcycle. And they are few and far between, and that would make sense, being I've had it for 500 and some hours, and obviously you have to be a fan of something to keep it that long. But the two things I'm not a big fan of are the fork guards and the carburetor. The fork guards don't protect very well, so if you're into Enduro, maybe you want to look into some aftermarket ones that wrap around the back of the fork a little bit more. I have damaged some fork legs, and you know that's an expensive fix, especially if you can't do it yourself. The carburetor, on the other hand, that is a much easier fix. The problem with it, they spec these with a 4.0 slide, which is entirely too rich. You're going to want to change that out immediately if you get one of these bikes and go with something much leaner. At least a 5, if not a 5.5 or a 6. I think I have a 5.75 in this bike now, and that will actually allow the air screw and the idle screw to work again. The bike's so rich and the slides cut so low it actually covers the pilot jet, and those screws just don't do anything from the factory. It's like you just turn them and they're worthless. So if you change that slide, you're going to notice that they start to work and the bike won't bog. It'll run a whole lot better. You know, you'll get rid of that blubbery feeling that a rich bike has. So look at changing those two things, and other than that, I have no complaints about this model of machine. So I don't want to get into modifications too deeply or what I've done to this bike, but a lot of people ask, so we're going to go over it really quickly. I run bib mooses front and back. I don't like flats, so I don't even mess around with that. The suspension has been revalved for my weight and my skill level. I think that's pretty important. Everyone likes really good suspension, so I spend some money there, and I find that value added. I put on all the protective bits, you know, skid plates, pipe guard. Definitely want to cover up the linkage and protect that. You want to safety wire your shifter on, safety wire anything that, you know, could rattle loose and break. I run a low seat because I'm 5'6", and I can't barely touch the ground, and that makes hard enduro a pain in the butt. I do run full wrap handguards. That cost me an elbow. I don't know if you guys can see the scars at one point, but I almost ripped my arm off one time because of these things. But you can't argue with the fact that they're going to save you more times than they're going to hurt you. So I still run them. You know, live and learn, I guess. I didn't learn. I just keep living. I did do some minor motor work to it, a little light port job, a high compression head, and I always run race gas. I'm a big believer in leaded race fuel for two-strokes. I think it just helps with the longevity. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, I like the X-Trig adjuster. That way I can change my race sag. But I try and keep these bikes as stock as possible. I don't like all the fancy gadgets and bling on them because that's just money that isn't value added, in my opinion. So try and keep it as stock as I can, but keep it protected and make sure that it fits me well. So guys, that's pretty much it. This 150 has been an amazing machine. I really hope my 24 125 is as good or maybe better than this. Maybe I'll do a comparison video. I have two 125s sitting on either side of me, so maybe that'll come up right after this. But yeah, if you're looking at one of these machines, I can't say enough good about them. Don't be afraid to buy one. Don't be afraid to try a small bore out. I'm sure it will impress you in the end. If you have any questions, you know, I do my best to reply to any sort of messages or comments on my videos, so don't be afraid to ask. Have a great day, guys, and be safe out there.